We've brought up on this channel before, I think plenty of times, the fact that if you ever speak to Brexit supporters, not the Brexiteers, but Brexit supporters who voted for Brexit, you will very often find they voted for Brexit for various different reasons. And it all really comes down to one thing. First of all, the Leave campaign used a lot of frustration at the current state of sort of the UK and sort of the UK government and the way that they were doing things at that time as a to build up and buoy up the sort of the Leave campaign. If you vote for Leave, there's going to be a serious change. And yet you look at Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss, and they are taking the completely wrong lessons of Brexit. Again, you listen to people who voted for Brexit. There is video of people being asked, "Why did you vote for Brexit?" And it's not just back in 2016, even recently. There was one woman who said she voted to leave because she said at that time it would stop the privatization of the NHS. The privatization of the NHS has nothing to do with the EU. And there are many other examples you can cite of people wanting change in this country, but their focus and their anger had been pointed at the EU when, as we've said time and time before, the problems of this country were never ever caused by the EU. They were very much caused by Tory austerity. And that was the real target. And you've seen the Brexiteers, like people like Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak, Boris Johnson, embrace that vote for leave to pursue an agenda which most people in the UK do not want. They do not want worse public services. They want more money putting in to public services. They want to see big corporations pay more in tax. They want to see more money go to the NHS. They want to, not see people having to rely on food banks. They want these areas that was promised during the for this leveling up message to be fulfilled. But of course, as we've pointed out numerous times, it isn't going to be fulfilled. So they are learning the complete wrong lessons of Brexit. And in a couple of years' time, there will be a lot of Brexit supporters who will come out and will say, this isn't what we wanted when we voted for Brexit. This isn't the type of Brexit we wanted. We wanted something else completely different. And then the Conservatives are going to be in a massive worry because the backlash is going to be explicitly against them. And trust me, that's only going to build and build and build. So today we're looking at Liz Truss, because Liz Truss is very, very much following in Johnson's example with what has been sort of dubbed by the Yorkshire bylines, I think quite perfectly, as Project Sneer. And I think that sums up Liz Truss's current leadership campaign absolutely perfectly. So before we go diving into this article, please do remember to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a motivation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. So over we go today to the Yorkshire Bylines with a title on this, with our article on this called Project Sneer. Truss follows Johnson's example. After the removal from power of a serial liar and a cheat with an unsuitable personality, any reasonable person might expect the people to choose the next leader to be rather more circumspect. Not a bit of it. Donald Trump got to power by lying so outrageously that he told his supporters that Barack Obama was the founder of ISIS. He tried to cling on to power by encouraging a violent mob to storm the White House. When he fell, most of the people who had supported him didn't decide to start behaving more reasonably, and worryingly, numbers of them came to the conclusion that they too could rise to the top by appealing to the lowest common denominator. Trump may have been defeated at the polls, but Trumpism is still alarmingly strong and unhealthy. In a similar way, Boris Johnson may have been unseated after breaking his own lockdown rules, lying repeatedly to Parliament, and making a habit of using public office to promote his career of his latest lover, but he remains an inspiration for some. Anyone who is solely interested in their own career, loves the sound of their own voice, and delights in a photo opportunity, and can be studied as the example and learning the technique, which is why Liz Truss is leading the contender to become the next prime minister. She isn't a particularly talented individual, but she does have one very troubling skill. She understands how to speak to the base of the supporters that she needs in order to win further her own career. The rest of the nation will be shudderingly with embarrassment at the gauche way in which she's trying to cozy up to the right wing of the Conservative Party, but that is of no consequence to her, provided that she wins. And she has to do this to become our next prime minister. It is telling that the Conservative Party members what they want most and what they want to hear. She is therefore trying to demand a great deal about tax cuts. She is not mentioning the horrible rise in mortgage rates and that might accompany them. She is talking enthusiastically about deregulation without mentioning that it was the prime cause for the 2008 financial crash and the Grenfell Tower disaster. And she's talking about axing the white elephant of public spending without saying anything about how the nation will cope with fewer doctors and nurses, demoralized teachers, care workers leaving their professions in droves. All of which would be bad enough were it not for the utter contempt at which she is treating the facts around Brexit. Johnson got to power by telling us that we could all have £300 million more a week for the NHS, and that Brexit would give us back control and create a wonderful new opportunities. He knew it was a lie, but realised that if he had to repeat it often enough, it would be believed by enough people. At the time, Truss took a completely different stance. She spent a great deal of her time trying to explain to the nation exactly how much damage it would cause us if we left our biggest trade market. Any objective, fair-minded person who looks at the evidence of what is actually happening since the Brexit referendum would have to admit that what she said at the time was right. The promises of extra money and spending have never materialized. Whilst all these worries about farmers facing unfair trade deals, fishing communities losing access to the most important market, and even holidaymakers queuing for hours alongside loads of British exports have proved very real. Unfortunately, fair-mind objective politics is in short supply just at the moment. It is being replaced by repeating simple slogans often and loudly, regardless of what's actually happening. So, Truss is now telling us she wanted Johnson to remain in power because he, quote, got Brexit done, despite the obvious fact that we still don't have a deal that works for Northern Ireland and we still don't have tariff-free access to the European market. Similarly, it is being repeated every day that the Conservatives are determined to, quote, level up, despite the lack of evidence from the highly respected IPPR report proving that public spending in Yorkshire is stuck at only £15,000 per person, where in London it is £19,000 per person, an increase by 25% between 2019 and 2021. What matters to her is not the truth, but the career opportunity. Not the best interest of the country, but what he's saying is in her own best interests. The contempt and displays for the public is quite extraordinary. Project Sneer has crept over her entire character. We have got to get rid of one insecure figure who has been desperate for public approval, only to find ourselves in severe danger of it being replaced by another. If she expects the rest of us to watch passively while she pulls off this astonishing feat of launching Britain into an even worse prime minister than Johnson, she may well have to have another thing coming. A nation that has learned how to resist one-line prime minister of dubious character may prove to have the measure of her even before she has even started the job. The narrow fiction of the political hobbyists who have joined the political party may want her in, but a lot more people want her out, and we can perhaps hope that it is just not the far right who have learned something from extreme populist politicians. A growing number of reasonable, fair-minded people can start to see through her lies and bluster, and just know how much we are better off without them. So, yeah, I very much do agree. I think Truss is, shall we say, singing from the same hymn sheet, as we say over here. I don't know if that's a phrase used elsewhere, but she's definitely singing from Johnson's hymn sheet, and she is saying all the right things that the Brexiteers want to hear. She's saying all the right things that the right wing of the party want to hear. And you've got a very interesting sort of situation brewing where you've got the vast majority of MPs who want Rishi Sunak because he has taught some good economic policy, certainly in that first part of the race. And obviously now seems to be sort of changing his tune on that a bit, maybe. But for Truss to get in and for her to certainly remain in power, she will have to rely on the right wing of the party, meaning she will have to do a lot of the things that Boris Johnson himself sort of somewhat avoided doing. She will have to go very hard on these Brexit benefits because even a lot of the right wing of the party constantly talked about how, why aren't we going for all these Brexit benefits? Why aren't we doing them now? But of course, as we've said before, the more the UK diverges, the harder it is for us to trade with the rest of the EU. You know, when you have two regulatory regimes, it makes it even harder. Just look at what's happening to the chemical industry. The fact that it now has to follow two different regimes. One, of course, it's got to follow the UK regime. And of course, if it wants to trade with Europe, it's got to follow the EU regime. So it is costing it billions of pounds. And I guarantee you that's not going to be the only industry that ends up being affected like that. If you are in a service industry that handles people's data, we constantly hear the rumbles that they're going to get rid of GDPR, or at least they're going to change it in some way, which essentially means if you are, again, someone who are in an industry who handles or holds people's data, and you have customers in the EU, that means you will also have to follow two different regulatory alignments. Doesn't matter that you are in the UK and you've got your own UK version of the GDPR. The fact that you have European clients means that you have to follow the EU directives on GDPR. And we don't know what those changes are going to entail. At least just yet, we've heard rumors or we've seen sort of drafts of what we might expect. We don't know what the full implications of that's going to be. And, you know, just as we said at the very beginning, there are a lot of people out there who voted for Brexit for some very bizarre reasons, from, wanting to stop the Muslims coming in. If you again, that video does exist. Unfortunately, that happened in my own hometown. It's very, very, very embarrassing. Trust me. But to again, as we said, the key example at the beginning of wanting to stop the privatization of the NHS, and sooner or later, a lot of people are going to realize and cotton on and say, "Hold on, the problem was never the EU; it was the Tory government," and hopefully, people will cotton on to that a lot quicker, because then we can sort of get them out and start to do some actual good stuff. So. As always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.